Every year, tens of thousands of people go missing in the USA. Most are found alive within a week, but there are cases when searches turn into a multi-year nightmare for the family, especially when a person disappears in broad daylight on the way to an important meeting, leaving behind only an abandoned car and hundreds of unanswered questions. On April 18, 1972, a girl named Barrett Beck was born in the small town of Sturtevant, Wisconsin. The town's population barely reached 7,000 people, the kind of American settlement where everyone knows everyone, where the main street consists of 3 shops, 1 church, and a diner, where crimes are rare and murders simply don't happen. Besides Barrett, a younger brother, Ben, grew up in the family. Their age difference was small, an ordinary middle-class American family. Those around her described the girl as a bright, gifted individual. From an early age, she was drawn to music. She didn't just listen, she played. By adulthood, this interest only grew stronger. Barrett dreamed of dedicating her life to creative work, not as a hobby, seriously. In high school, she actively developed her musical abilities. She played the violin, classical repertoire, complex pieces, piano, jazz and blues, plus other instruments. She sang beautifully. Her voice was clear, strong. In the summer of '89, she was even invited on a national tour with a Christian music group, a month on America's roads. Performances in churches, youth camps. Faith held an important place in the girl's life. Not ostentatious, genuine. During those same years, Barrett was dating a boy named Curtis, a high school romance that grew into a serious relationship. The young man even proposed. He got down on one knee, presented a ring, everything by the book. But she felt it was too early to rush into things. A career and studies lay ahead. All of this required concentration. The couple discussed the situation calmly, without drama. They decided to wait at least until after college. However, they did get engaged. The ring remained on her finger. The promise, too. Life was going great. Barrett had chosen her educational institution, a college with a good music program. Now she wanted to save money, not to be a burden on her parents. Ambitions emerged. She wasn't going to follow the typical path of American teenagers, working as a waitress in a roadside diner, a bartender in a local bar, a sales clerk in a shopping mall. Even without a diploma, Barrett was aiming for more. She accidentally came across an advertisement from a construction company. A secretary was needed. The idea immediately lit a spark in her. The girl handled computers confidently, a rarity for the '90s. Back then, that was a serious skill. She signed up for an interview. She later remembered the day of the interview in detail. She wore a formal blouse. She memorized a few phrases about her skills. She was nervous. The head of the organization immediately took a liking to her. A middle-aged woman, strict but fair. Her qualifications, of course, were not documented, but they met her halfway. There was one condition: to complete a 3-day computer seminar for beginners, training in basic programs, document management. It would have been foolish to miss such an opportunity. The job offered a good salary for an 18-year-old, prospects for career growth. Barrett agreed without hesitation. The seminar was held approximately 150 kilometers from home, in the larger city of Appleton. For small Sturtevant, it was another universe. She asked her parents to accompany her, but no one could. Her mother was recovering from an injury, a snowmobile accident, fractures. Her father was caring for his wife and working. He couldn't take time off. Her brother was too young, 13 years old. Her fiancé Curtis was also working. He couldn't take several days off in a row. His boss wouldn't have allowed it. The girl saw the situation as a test, her first serious step towards adulthood. The chance to get a job at a reputable company and solve financial issues all at once seemed too valuable. She decided to go alone. Before the trip, she was very nervous. Her parents noticed. For an 18-year-old, this was her first long journey without adult supervision. She prepared meticulously. The trip was scheduled for July 17, 1990. She packed her things for several days. She made a list of essentials: a notebook, pens, clothes for 3 days, cosmetics. She double-checked everything 10 times. She prepared her car, an '87 two-tone van, orange and white, a popular model in America at the time, comfortable, functional. She had to buy a roof rack for her belongings. Her father helped install it. On July 17th, Barrett woke up early. Dawn was just breaking. Her anxiety was through the roof. Her hands trembled as she zipped up her suitcase. She double-checked everything on the list once more. She said goodbye to her family. Her mother hugged her tightly. Her father told her to be careful on the road. Her brother waved from the window. She left early, around 7 in the morning. She had plenty of time. First, she stopped by her boyfriend's place. They spent about 40 minutes together. He poured her coffee into a thermos. They kissed goodbye. He wished her good luck. Then she left town. The road led through rural areas of Wisconsin. Fields, farms, sparse settlements. Barrett turned on the radio. It was playing hits from the summer of '90. She sang along with the songs. Her mood was upbeat. Her first stop was about 100 kilometers later, the city of Fond du Lac. There was a large shopping mall with parking there. She parked near the entrance. She went into a few stores. She bought cosmetics, mascara, lipstick, small items for the trip, a teeth whitening kit. She wanted to look perfect for the seminar. She left the receipt in the car on the front seat. The time of purchase was around 11 in the morning. This was recorded by the cash register. Then she returned to the van. She got behind the wheel. She started the engine. And then, everything went wrong. Problems began when she didn't show up in Appleton at the appointed time. The seminar was supposed to start at 2 in the afternoon. The manager who conducted the interview was the first to become worried. She had noticed Barrett even back then. She remembered her. She was waiting for her at the training. The seminar started without her. 2 o'clock, 2:15, 2:30. The girl still wasn't there. At first, the woman thought she was just running late, delayed on the road, traffic jam, breakdown. Mobile phones didn't exist back then. There was no way to contact her. The manager waited until 3 o'clock. Then she called the number Barrett had left, the Beck family's home phone. She reported that the girl hadn't arrived. She wanted to find out why. Silence hung on the other end of the line. Then, her mother's voice, confused, frightened. Her parents didn't understand. They had seen their daughter off that morning. Since then, they hadn't heard anything from her. They were waiting for a call, for her to arrive at her destination. They attributed the silence to road problems, or to her already being at the seminar, busy. They suspected nothing serious. At that moment, Her mother was recovering from a snowmobile accident. She couldn't go looking herself. Her leg was in a cast. But she wasn't going to sit idly by. Her hands trembled as she dialed Curtis's number. She contacted Barrett's fiancé. She learned that the girl had left his place long ago, around 8 in the morning. She called all her daughter's friends, one by one. No one knew anything. No one had seen anything. Panic grew. Her father took matters into his hands. He put his wife in the car. She could barely move, but she wanted to go. He drove towards Appleton, on the same road Barrett had taken. He looked along the sides of the road. Perhaps the car had broken down somewhere on the shoulder. He arrived in Appleton by evening. He confirmed that his daughter had indeed not arrived. She hadn't even checked in to the reserved hotel room during all these hours. The key remained at the reception desk. There was no longer any doubt. Something had happened. Her parents knew Barrett as a responsible person. She valued this job. She had prepared for weeks. It wasn't in her character to simply wander off along the way. She wasn't that type. The girl was hurrying to an important event. Her future depended on it. The parents began their search. They contacted the police around 8 in the evening. They arrived at the Fond du Lac precinct, her last known location. There were no excuses about the mandatory 24 hours since the disappearance. The duty officer looked at the parents' haggard faces. He looked at the description of the situation. He nodded. The police immediately took the situation seriously. Several search teams were organized by the next morning. They scoured the roadsides. They checked roadside motels. They questioned gas station attendants. Later, volunteers joined them. Local residents, family friends, Barrett's classmates. The Beck family was struggling greatly with their daughter's disappearance. Her father barely slept. Her mother cried non-stop. A large reward was immediately announced, $75,000, a huge sum for a small town, for any valuable information. They believed it would help bring Barrett back alive. Someone saw something. Someone knows. Unfortunately, the effect was the opposite. The wider the information about the disappearance and a reward spread, the more calls the police received. Dozens, then hundreds. I saw a girl at a gas station in Milwaukee. I saw someone similar in Chicago. My neighbor is hiding something. All turned out to be false. People were mistaken. Or they wanted easy money. Checking each lead took a lot of time. Detectives crisscrossed the state, but no progress was made. On July 19th, 2 days after the operation began, Barrett's modified van was discovered. In the morning, around 10 o'clock. The car was abandoned not far from the same shopping center where she had stopped in Fond du Lac. Found in the parking lot, parked perfectly, between the lines, as if it had been left for a couple of hours for shopping. Several witnesses immediately came forward, people who regularly parked in that same lot. They claimed the car hadn't been there on either July 17th or 18th. Definitely. They would have noticed. Bright, noticeable. Even patrols that had scoured the area and driven past the parking lot several times a day had noticed nothing suspicious. The mystery was quickly solved. Police examined the vehicle. The first thing that caught their eye was the odometer. Instead of the expected 100 kilometers Barrett was supposed to drive to Fond du Lac, Over 500 had been clocked. Someone had been driving this car for a long time. Further inspection revealed even more oddities. The interior looked as if someone had been living in it. Although the girl didn't smoke, everyone knew that. Empty cigarette packs were found inside. Numerous wrappers, tobacco ash on the seats, cigarette butts in the ashtray. In total, about 70 items were collected from the interior of the abandoned vehicle. Forensic specialists worked for hours, photographed every detail, packaged them in bags with tags. The Beck family did not recognize a significant portion of these. They looked at the display of evidence. They shook their heads. These items definitely do not belong to our daughter. Barrett herself was not there, nor were there any clues regarding the direction of the search, but frightening hints about her fate emerged. A red shirt was found in the interior, the very one she was going to wear to the seminar. Silk, short-sleeved. Her family immediately recognized it. Her mother clutched her heart. Berta considered this item of clothing a lucky charm. She wore it for all important events. The condition of the shirt was horrifying. A large piece had been torn from it, a clean tear, deliberately. The scrap was found neither in the car nor around it. It was gone. When all this came to light, the detectives exchanged glances. Experienced individuals. They had seen many things over their years of service. They doubted that the parents would see their daughter alive, but no one spoke their thoughts aloud. A thorough analysis of the collected evidence began. The laboratory worked around the clock, but no progress was made in the search for the girl. The fate of the missing person remained unknown. A body. They needed to find a body. Much later, they succeeded. The disappearance investigation was in full swing. Detectives worked 7 days a week. When the precinct received a call from the forensic laboratory in a neighboring county, the voice on the phone was official, dry. 5 weeks after the disappearance, August 22nd, noon. A farmer living near Willow Creek noticed something suspicious in a ditch by the highway. A middle-aged man. He had worked the land his entire life. He was driving his tractor along the very edge of the shoulder. He was heading to an adjacent field. He was trying not to interfere with passing cars. That's why he was able to make out something strange in the tall grass of the ditch. The shape was wrong. The color was off. The smell. Even through the smell of the tractor's diesel fuel, another scent cut through. Sweetish, nauseating. The man stopped. He turned off the engine. He slowly got out of the tractor. He approached closer. He peered intently. He realized it was a severely decomposed human body. It was lying face down. Almost no clothing remained. Due to the August heat, insects, and scorching sun, bones had already begun to emerge. Tissues had blackened. In places, they had collapsed. The frightened farmer retreated a few steps. He tried not to look. He got back into his tractor. His hands trembled as he started the engine. He drove to the nearest house, knocked on the door, asked for a phone, called the police. When officers arrived, 2 patrolmen and a detective, they cordoned off the area with yellow tape. They called forensic specialists, a medical examiner. They were unable to extract particularly valuable information from the remains at the scene. Laboratory analysis was required. Specialists, time. The body was so severely decomposed that entomologists, insect specialists, were consulted to determine the time of death. Based on the activity of larvae and their developmental stages, it was calculated. The unknown victim had died more than a month ago. Approximately in mid to late July. The age was also determined. A girl, aged 17 to 20. Height, about 165 centimeters. Medium build. This did not allow for precise identification of the body, but it narrowed down the list. A thorough analysis of missing persons in the county narrowed it down to a few individuals. 3 girls of suitable age had disappeared in the last 2 months. Among them, 18-year-old Barrett Beck. The victim had ligature marks on her neck, and by several methods. First, judging by the marks, she was strangled by hands. Then with something soft, possibly fabric. Then again by hands. Her eyes were blindfolded. The blindfold was partially preserved. No signs of injuries from cold steel or firearms were found. The medical examiner stated the cause of death as asphyxiation, strangulation. An interesting detail: the blindfold was made from a red scrap of fabric. The fabric was silk. Familiar. Further analysis confirmed. The fabric was identical to the damaged shirt found in Barrett's abandoned car. This, along with dental records, the girl had a filling in her upper molar, allowed the body to be identified with 100% certainty. 18-year-old Barrett Beck. When this was reported to the precinct, the case was officially reclassified from missing person to homicide investigation. Since there was no clothing on the remains apart from stockings, a sexual motive for the attack was suspected. However, the state of preservation of the remains did not allow this to be confirmed or refuted. Due to the poor condition of the body, it was impossible to obtain the assailant's biological fluids. Too late. It had been too hot in August. Insects had been too active. During the examination of the area near the remains, some of Barrett's personal belongings were found. Her backpack, torn, dirty, several items of clothing, but jewelry was missing. The girl's gold ring, a gift from her fiancé, was missing. An engagement ring with a small stone. Her wristwatch, a Timex, inexpensive but her favorite. A Pioneer radio and a Cobra radar detector had disappeared from the car. Presumably, the killer took them, to sell them, or wanted to mislead the investigation, to create the appearance of a robbery. Upon closer inspection of the vehicle, already in the lab under lights, the ring was indeed found. It was lying under the driver's side floor mat. It had rolled underneath. It gleamed in the light of a flashlight. The other items remained lost. Investigators had a detailed description of all items. They began visiting pawn shops in Fond du Lac, in neighboring towns. They showed photos of the items, asked employees. Unfortunately, this yielded no results. No one recalled these items. Either they weren't sold, or they were sold somewhere far away, or simply discarded. The investigation continued. Months passed. Great difficulties were posed by the area covered by the killer. There were tens of kilometers between the body and the abandoned car. approximately 60 in a straight line. But the huge mileage on the odometer indicated that this was only a small part of the route. The perpetrator drove around, for a long time. On what roads? Why? A notable detail: the perpetrator left no traces on the steering wheel, nor on the gear shift lever. They were clean, wiped thoroughly. This meant the assailant wanted to remove fingerprints, knew what they were doing, wiped everything methodically. Yet he left dozens of other pieces of evidence in the interior: cigarette butts, wrappers, soda bottles. All of this should have contained DNA samples, saliva, sweat, skin cells. Attempts to extract a profile were unsuccessful. There were too few sources, or the samples were damaged. For the forensic capabilities of the 90s, this was insurmountable. After some time, the county sheriff, an experienced man nearing retirement, took personal control of the case. The mileage puzzled him. Over 500 kilometers. Where to? Why? Attempts were made to track all movements of Barrett's car. It was bright, orange and white, noticeable, with a roof rack with stickers on the rear window. The girl had prepared thoroughly, used additional equipment. However, the model turned out to be too common. Vans of this make were everywhere in Wisconsin. It was difficult to stand out from the flow of traffic. Road cameras were practically not used during that period, only at major interchanges, and this lead reached a dead end. The perpetrator had possession of the vehicle for several days, from the evening of July 17th to the morning of the 19th. Actively used it, drove around, but he managed to evade patrols, road services, casual witnesses. Given the cold-bloodedness and chosen method of murder, it was suspected that the perpetrator might have known the victim personally, enticed her to stop, asked for help, pretended to be an acquaintance. Barrett's immediate circle consisted of respectable people. The girl fully matched the description of an intelligent individual. There had never been any problems with her, neither at school nor at home. Categorically against crime, no bad habits, did not drink, did not smoke, did not try drugs. Even at parties, she remained sober. Since the last person to see Barrett alive was her fiancé, he became the focus of intense scrutiny, more out of desperation than based on facts. When Curtis came in for questioning, a week after the body was found, he immediately declared his innocence. His voice trembled. He was ready to do anything to prove it. He voluntarily provided everything necessary: DNA samples, fingerprints. He agreed to take a lie detector test. They didn't ask. He offered himself. He was quickly crossed off the list. The guy had a solid alibi, ironclad. He hadn't left the city. After meeting Barrett around 8 in the morning, he went to work, an auto repair shop on the outskirts. He stayed there until 6 in the evening. He was there all subsequent days. Colleagues confirmed it. His boss confirmed it. The guy clearly had no way to travel 500 kilometers on the days Barrett disappeared. Detectives released him. The guy left the station pale and exhausted. After this, investigators decided to focus on men with criminal pasts, those who lived in Fond du Lac during the abduction and murder. They compiled a list of 23 people. A local criminal quickly became the main suspect, whose entire life had been dedicated to crime. His name was Craig Rahn, 28 years old. He immediately seemed like a suitable candidate. The guy even had a nickname, Psycho. He used this moniker in criminal circles. He earned it by instantly exploding. He had difficulty controlling himself when angry. He could hit, he could threaten, he could act impulsively. This unpredictable young man had a long criminal history, a case file several centimeters thick. He immediately attracted police attention. He specialized in car theft, in armed robberies. Although Barrett was not shot, nor stabbed, but the perpetrator used her car for a long time. Furthermore, Craig was seen in the Fond du Lac area around the time Barrett was driving to a work event. A witness saw him at a gas station. Detectives obtained a search warrant for Craig Rahn's property in the winter of '91. January, frost. He heightened suspicions from the very beginning. He flat out refused to cooperate. The man denied any involvement in the car theft, in the girl's death. He could not provide an alibi. I was at home, alone. No one saw me. He refused a lie detector test. He crossed his arms over his chest. He stared at the wall. Craig was sure it was all useless. They were just trying to make him a scapegoat, to pin an unsolved case on him, to clear their statistics. Nevertheless, no evidence was found during the search of his home and car. No Pioneer radio, no radar detector, no Timex watch, no Barrett's clothing, nothing. Detectives were convinced Craig was indeed guilty, so they focused on gathering evidence against him. They dug deeper. According to police records, he started having serious behavioral problems as a teenager, 14 years old. He ran away from home, slept at friends' houses, then on the street. Became addicted to drugs, marijuana first, then harder ones. He gradually descended into the criminal underworld. He dropped out of school at 16, started stealing cars, petty thefts first, stores, garages, then more serious ones. By adulthood, robberies were added to these crimes, armed, with a pistol. He entered 24-hour convenience stores, demanded money from the till, received it. Now he couldn't get away with light sentences. Community service was over. He found himself behind bars for the first time. Served a year, got out, and went back to his old ways. By the '90s, he already had an extensive criminal history. Several sentences, probatory, actual, but he couldn't leave his chosen path. He had no other skills. Legitimate work held no appeal. Gradually, this allowed him to acquire the reputation of a professional criminal, living solely off crime. He was known in all counties. Craig's immediate circle considered him capable of any crime, including murder. They said without hesitation, yes, he can, no question. To be fair, he had no recorded acts of violence against women, not once. He beat men, robbed stores, but he didn't touch women, as if an internal boundary. Investigators considered him prone to violence, capable of killing a person without remorse, if pushed to it, if it became necessary. Therefore, they tried to link the man to the girl's disappearance. They searched for anything. The lack of evidence against Craig was attributed to his experience. He knew the system from the inside. He knew what investigators would look for. Therefore, he destroyed the evidence, wiped down the car, got rid of the belongings. He was careful. The grounds were substantial. Around the time Barrett was abducted, Craig was living in a motel, a cheap one, near the Fond du Lac shopping center, a second-floor room. The window overlooked the parking lot. Suspicions were confirmed, but only indirectly. Geographically suitable, criminally suitable, psychologically suitable. But there was no direct evidence. They could not charge him with Barrett's murder. However, it didn't take long to find another reason. He was arrested in the spring of '92, placed in federal prison for an unrelated crime, a post office robbery. This allowed the investigation to continue calmly, without fear that the dangerous repeat offender would escape, go into hiding, destroy remaining evidence. A police informant made a significant contribution to strengthening suspicions, named Tim Amundsen, 32 years old, a small-time drug dealer working for the police. He was acquainted with the suspect. They crossed paths in criminal circles. After Craig's arrest, Tim contacted detectives. He claimed Craig had personally confessed the murder to him, even showed him Barrett's body. According to him, the killer didn't know what to do with it. He panicked. The body was inside the stolen van for almost a day, on the back seat, covered with a blanket. Only on the second day did Craig drive it far from the city, at night, on empty roads. Detectives seized on this lead, finally something. But the longer they worked on the case, trying to connect the sole main suspect to it, the more acutely they realized there was nothing against him, only the informant's words. Having failed to find evidence against Craig, they did not press charges related to Barrett against him. The decision proved correct. Later, 6 months later, Tim Amundsen recanted his words. He came to the station himself, sat opposite the detective, confessed. He made up the story about the confession and showing the body. He was simply acquainted with this brutal man. He was afraid of him. He wanted him locked up for good, so that he couldn't harm anyone, including himself. When fabricating the lie, the informant relied exclusively on details provided by detectives, plus on television reports. Local news had been running this story for months. They even conducted a polygraph test. Amundsen passed. The polygraph confirmed the informant had lied then. He was telling the truth now. Detectives were angry, but there was nothing they could do. Then they decided to take a closer look at the existing evidence. They went back to the beginning. They managed to find fingerprints. In total, 12 clear prints were found on items from the car's interior. Clear ones. Checks confirmed. They did not belong to anyone in Barrett's immediate circle. Not her parents, nor her brother, nor her fiancé. They didn't belong to her either. Unfortunately, comparison with the police database also yielded no results. Not a single print matched anyone in the records. The perpetrator either had no criminal past or had simply not been caught before. Notably, the prints also did not match Craig Ron. They checked specifically, not his fingers. However, Even when he was behind bars for an unrelated crime, they continued to keep an eye on him. Detectives were not quick to abandon the idea that he was the one who killed the girl. Maybe he wore gloves. Maybe someone helped. The theory stayed afloat for years. For many years, there were no leads. The case went cold. It was filed away in the unsolved archives. They returned to it occasionally when new technologies emerged. New analytical methods. Only by 2013 did the case begin to revive. In the 23-year-old case, the catalyst was the USA Today newspaper network in Wisconsin. They launched a series of articles on the state's unsolved murders. They reawakened interest in Barrett's case. The public was stirred up. People wrote letters, called the newsroom, demanded justice. The investigation was relaunched, under pressure. A cold case squad was formed. A new detective joined it, young, ambitious, with a modern education. His first order of business was to retrieve all documents from the archive. Dusty boxes related to Barrett Beck. He decided to digitize them, scanned every page, uploaded them to a database. Simultaneously, he familiarized himself with the materials, read, memorized, searched for anything missed. In February 2014, this bore fruit. Finally, the long-awaited breakthrough occurred. During this period, a Wisconsin State Crime Lab analyst was re-examining evidence. In the case of the deceased girl, he used new equipment, more sensitive. On 5 items collected from the van 24 years ago, 9 previously unidentified fingerprints were immediately found. Partial, blurred, but clear enough for identification. They were on a Burger King cup, on an employee user manual for the company where the girl wanted to work, on a teeth whitening kit, on Marlboro cigarette wrappers, on M&M's candy wrappers. All items were sent for examination to compare results with existing databases, which had significantly expanded since the 90s, millions of records now. There was little hope, but the results came 3 weeks later. The analyst called the detective, his voice excited. It turned out all 9 fingerprints belonged to one person, and he was in the database. 100% match. It was a 61-year-old truck driver from Kenosha named Dennis Brantner. Shortly before the girl's disappearance, about a month prior, he had repaired the furnace at the Beck family's home. He came twice, could have been connected to the family, could have seen the victim, could have known about her plans. To confirm their suspicion, detectives reviewed his criminal history. It was there. His first arrest occurred in '94. The man attacked his second wife, kidnapped her from their home, drove her into the woods, beat her, threatened to kill her. The wife survived, reported it to the police. He received 3 years. By this point, many had noticed problems with him, with his behavior, with his relationships with women. He was always cruel, quick-tempered, manipulative, demanded complete control. One of Denise's colleagues, a truck driver with whom he worked in tandem, even heard a story from him, which seemed very frightening. They were driving through Montana, night, empty road. Dennis suddenly started talking. claimed he wanted to kidnap a woman, rape her, kill her. He spoke in detail how he would do it, where he would hide the body. The colleague first thought he was joking, then realized, no, seriously. Based on the collected data, detectives went to the home of the new main suspect in Kenosha, February 2014. They had a warrant. They hoped to find several of Barrett's missing items: a radio, a radar detector, a watch. It was believed that the perpetrator might have taken them as trophies, kept them for years. Criminals sometimes do that, a reminder of power. However, the searches did not yield any of the missing items from the van, not a single one. This was easily explained. 24 years had passed. The items could have simply been lost, thrown away, sold, given away. A computer was seized from the man, 3 storage devices, 5 photo albums, several discs, for analysis. In case there were photos, in case there were confessions in diaries. Then, in the same year, 2014, a week after the search, he was interrogated. The detective turned on the voice recorder, placed a folder with evidence on the table. From the very beginning, Dennis claimed that he didn't know who Barrett was at all. He was hearing that name for the first time. He was innocent of everything. His voice, confident, looked directly into his eyes. However, when the detective opened the folder, showed photographs of the fingerprints, reported the match, Dennis's behavior changed abruptly. He paled, licked his lips, looked away, then blurted out the first thing that came to mind. "I didn't kill the girl." Just like that, without preamble. This indicated a lie. He at least knew about her existence, about her fate. From the very beginning, he lied. However, they failed to break the main suspect. He fell silent, demanded a lawyer, crossed his arms, turned away. He was released after the first interrogation, 4 hours later. Insufficient evidence for detention. The investigators' suspicions only grew stronger. Because of his strange behavior, because of the fingerprints, because of his criminal past. But now, physical evidence was needed. More, stronger. On March 27, 2015, Dennis Brantner was arrested, early in the morning, at his home, charged with first-degree murder of Barrett Beck, handcuffs, reading of rights, being put into a car. The upcoming hearings attracted national attention. CNN, Fox News, local channels. 25 years they had waited for this moment. Interestingly, the Beck family themselves were skeptical. The mother gave an interview, said she wasn't sure. In 25 years of investigation, this man's name had appeared on the suspect list for the first time. For the first time. Moreover, they knew the man personally, remembered him. He repaired the furnace. He was polite, quiet. They considered him harmless. He couldn't have attacked Barrett, not that person. Therefore, the parents thought that the police might have gotten the wrong person. Again, like with Craig Ron back then. Nevertheless, the hearings began. June 2016. During them, the parents and brother became convinced of Dennis's guilt. Gradually, with each day of the hearings. The prosecution relied on fingerprints, the only direct evidence, plus a whole list of circumstantial evidence. Essentially, these included Marlboro cigarettes, which the perpetrator smoked, ash found in the abandoned van. Analysis showed the same brand. In addition to this, witness statements. A colleague who heard about the desire to kidnap and kill a woman. An ex-wife who spoke of violence. Past disturbing episodes from the man's life, indicating a propensity for cruelty, for control over women, for manipulation. Naturally, the lawyer immediately began to insist on the insufficiency of evidence. All evidence was circumstantial. Fingerprints? He repaired the furnace. He could have accidentally touched items in the car when retrieving tools. He could have. Plus a whole list of other items that were not considered. For example, several DNA samples from the van, which did not match the defendant. Whose were they? Perhaps the real killers? The defense wanted to refer to the previous suspect, Craig Ron, but the judge prohibited it. Even mentioning him during the hearings was not allowed. Jury bias. But despite the minimal direct evidence, the evidence looked convincing. One of the truck driver's hands was deformed, an injury in his youth. 2 fingers had fused incorrectly, a characteristic mark. This clearly corresponded to the fingerprints in the van, on the cup, on the wrapper. Accidental matches were impossible. The expert showed enlarged photographs. The jurors nodded. The Beck family testified before the jury. Mother, father, brother. Even Barrett's fiancé, Curtis. He flew in from another state. All emotionally described life after the girl's murder. How everything collapsed. How the family changed. The mother cried. The father looked at the floor. The brother, now an adult man, clenched his fists. Curtis never married. For 25 years, he remained faithful to her memory. Despite the prosecution's eloquence, after 3 weeks of hearings, the jury reached a deadlock. The vote: 7 for guilt, 5 against. They could not reach a unanimous decision. The proceedings were declared a mistrial. In January 2017, it was decided to hold a retrial. The list of evidence largely remained the same. Both sides had high chances of winning. It could go either way. Based on his lawyer's recommendation, Dennis Brantner pleaded guilty in February 18 to manslaughter, not first degree, softer. However, he refused to disclose the details of what happened, exactly how, why, where they met. It was impossible to assess the plausibility of his version. He remained stubbornly silent. At that time, the man was 64 years old, gray-haired, stooped. When sentencing, they relied on state law from the 90s. According to it, the killer could receive no more than 10 years of imprisonment for this crime, the maximum. He received this maximum sentence, 10 years, announced on March 1, 2018. All those concerned about Barrett's fate came to the courtroom that day. Dressed in her favorite color, red. Red shirts, red dresses, red ties, a sea of red. At the time of sentencing, the man had already served 3 years, awaiting hearings. This was taken into account. 7 remained. Furthermore, he retained the right to parole, with good behavior. In the best case, he will be released when he turns 75, the year 2029. As of today, 2024, he is still behind bars, but will be released soon. After the trial concluded, the Beck family shared their feelings with journalists. They held a press conference outside the courthouse. They remained dissatisfied with the decision, deeply. Based on the initial charges, first-degree murder, the killer could have received more than 27.5 years of imprisonment, or even life. They considered the sentence too lenient, offensively lenient, they emphasized. The mother spoke into the microphone, her voice trembling. They wished this dangerous predator would die in prison, so he would never get out again. Now, Dennis could not only live out the rest of his days free, but also harm someone again. Another girl, another family. The story could repeat itself. The father added that justice had only been half served. The criminal was found, but the punishment was a mockery. 10 years for the life of an 18-year-old girl, for a shattered family, for 25 years of waiting. The brother, Ben, now 43 years old, said the last sentence, quietly, but the microphones caught it. She never saw her wedding, never had children, never lived her life. But he will get out and be free. It's not fair. Cameras clicked. Journalists recorded. The family turned and left. There were no further comments.